Hey, good morning. Welcome. This is Mark coming to you from Tin Cup Farms. Another beautiful morning here. And today's session is titled The God of My Misunderstanding. You know, too often in life, I think our spiritual connection, we think that there is a understanding that we have to have of God. And at the end of the day, you'll see Gracie running around here. At the end of the day, what you have to realize that the God that you need to connect with is the God that is beyond all understanding. So enjoy today's session. Welcome to Rescue the Man. My name is Mark Mascola. I am grateful to be here. Grateful you are here as well. What is Rescue the Man? Rescue the Man is a book, a podcast, online courses, and live events and workshops that have been created for men who are masculine to the core. We live in a world that is blurring the lines of masculinity. At Rescue the Man, our mission is to create a brotherhood of men who celebrate God-given, God-inspired masculinity. Masculine to the core. The letters of CORE are an acronym for men who are committed, optimistic, resilient, and empowered. Empowered because their primary purpose is to be defined by their masculine walk with God. We're glad you're here. All right, here we go. Welcome to today's session. The title of the session is The God of My Misunderstanding. Now, the purpose of this session, as with everything that we do here, is to have you, by the end of it, affirm I'm a more powerful me because I'm a most powerful God. So let's go ahead and get going. So let me give you a little bit of a backstory here. It's 1999, and I'm sitting in a rocking chair. And I'm rethinking what was going on in my life. From a former college athlete to where I was now, I was kind of asking myself the question, what was going on? What happened? Because when looking at the story, July 29th, 1999, I'm sitting in a rocking chair at an alcohol and drug rehabilitation center. And let me tell you, I believed I was a failure. My marriage was coming apart at the seams. My business was crumbling into the ground. I spent little to no time with my kids. I was the ultimate rat in the race, and I was losing. And I was losing huge. I believed I was a failure, and I was. And I'm going to talk here in a minute about the definition of the word belief, but let me go ahead and give it to you now. Definition of the word belief is the acceptance or state of mind that something is true. And then I'm going to say again, I believed I was a failure. But in looking at the definition of the word belief, I always add to the end of it whether it is or not. A belief, a state of mind or acceptance that something is true, whether it was or not, or is or not. Bottom line is, I just had to admit that what I was doing wasn't working in any area of my life. And drugs and alcohol had become, it was the solution to so many of my problems because it helped me turn those off for a while. And then at the end of the day, it became the biggest problem of all, which is hence the story of most men's travels with addiction. Right? It starts off as fun. Then it starts off as a way to lessen the noise of the problems of our lives. And all of a sudden, it becomes a trap. It's the biggest problem of all. But, you know, when looking back, 1999 till today, you know, a couple of decades in recovery, my entire life changed because I was willing to admit I had to take a deep breath and realize what I was doing wasn't working and I needed to do things in a different way. So let's talk for a second about the word control. In our society today, The word control is a myth. And a myth is a widely held but false belief. We hear all the time in our society, he's a control freak. Well, guess what? I'm a control freak. I want to control my life. I want to control the outcome. If I don't control it, who do I want to control it? But here's what I had to understand about me when I look at this backstory, right? I had to admit what I was doing wasn't working because I had to understand I was trying to control God. In my limited knowledge of prayer at the time, I was real good at these foxhole prayers. God, come help me. Oh God, I'll never do that again if you'll only help me through blank. Right? Just fill in the blank. And this began my misunderstanding of God. This celestial Santa Claus that I would throw out a request and expect him to answer it. And answer it the way I wanted it answered. That's what I talk about when I say controlling God. So let me give you a little bit more of a backstory here. When I was in treatment, I had my counselor had me go to the chapel and write out the 10 attributes of the man that I aspired to be. And he said, what I want you to do is when you get stuck, because not all 10 are going to come to you at the same time, I want you to sit still and listen to God. He said, don't ask him for anything. You've been asking him for too much for too long. Sit still and listen to God. Well, I wrote out those 10 attributes of the man that I aspired to be. And I brought them to group the next morning, and my counselor asked me to share those with my group. And I did that. And I was so proud. I actually wrote down 11, being the overachiever that I thought I was. And when I got done sharing those attributes with my group, my counselor, James, who has left this earth, who died a couple of years ago, rest in peace, my brother. You changed my life and changed so many others. He looked at me in front of all those people in my group, and he said, Mark, what are you doing to be that guy? And I thought, wow, man, my whole life is a lie. The guy that I say I want to be is not how I live. Back to this, I had to admit what I was doing wasn't working because I was doing it wrong. Writing down those 10 attributes and understanding that the man that I aspired to be was not the guy that I was acting like. It's real good to write those things down on a piece of paper, but how do I conduct myself in my life? So, I've in this whole concept of the 12 steps, the third step reads, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And I underline understood for a reason. And you're going to see where I'm going with this in a second. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So when I come to the realization that what I'm doing isn't working, maybe I need to try something different. And that's maybe when I need to invite God into my life. But here I am again, back to this myth of control, right? When I turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand him, I only understand him from my perspective of where I am in my life. And that is a limited perspective. It is a misunderstanding of God because of my current circumstances. My misunderstanding was the problem. Because if I understood God, I would be God, which I obviously am not. I was up way before sunrise this morning, doing my prayer and meditation and doing my conscious contact with God. And as the sun came up, I realized I didn't create that. So there's a power greater than me that created that, which I obviously am not. But what I've come to understand is that God wants me to be the co-creator of my life with him. Not to turn my will and my life over to God and then sit around and wait for, again, the celestial Santa Claus to answer my prayers in the manner with which I want them answered. That's why I always talk about the divine sequence. The divine sequence is when I turn my will and my life over to a God that is beyond my understanding and realize that there's a master chess game going on that I'm just part of. The God that is beyond my understanding is the God that moves these pieces around, gives us a free will, but gives us an opportunity to co-create our lives with him for a greater good. Lots of men have faith in God, and that's great. Faith means a belief. I believe in God. And faith creates hope, right? The optimism of better outcomes. The desire, the belief in better outcomes. But what you have to understand is that while you can believe, you develop courage by being in action. Trust is faith in action. Trust is when I turn my will and my life over to the care of a God that is beyond my understanding, and I realize that the answer to so many of my prayers requires action on my part. A simple analogy that I always use is that if you're praying to win the lottery, you better buy a lottery ticket. And what you have, I talked about this whole definition of beliefs, right? The state of mind or the acceptance that something is true. And I'm going to add whether it is or not. And the foundation of all that we are is what we believe. And that begins with what we believe about ourselves. There are 8 key areas that every modern man must master. Number 1 is personal growth, discovering our true identity. Personal growth has nothing to do with mindset. A positive, empowering mindset is the result of a man understanding the power in his true identity in the man that God created him to be and to become. The power in your personality. That's why I created the program that I call the Warrior's Challenge. It's to help a man discover his true identity in understanding his personality circle, his core strengths, his core values, and the spectrum sequence of his emotions. Those are your personality and your true identity. And the bottom line is most men are traveling this earth and have no idea who they truly are. They're trying to discover their purpose in life, and you'll never discover your purpose in life until you discover your true identity in who God created you to be and to become. So again, there are 8 key areas that every modern man must master. Number 1 is personal growth, and it comes full circle to spiritual connection and life's purpose. And I found my life's purpose I found a purpose for my life in recovery and a purpose for my life because of my recovery. And every man has some sort of a cross that he has to bear. Yours may not be an addiction, or it may be. But the solutions that we look for are always based on our personal growth. We solve the problems in our lives by becoming larger than the problem. The 8 key areas every modern man must master. I'll roll through them, all 8 of them. Personal growth is number 1. Relationships, number 2. Finances, number 3. Physical wellness, number 4. Mental clarity, number 5. Nutrition, number 6. Recreation being number 7. And number 8 is spiritual connection and life's purpose. I'm going to talk about recreation here in just a second. When you look at number 1, personal growth, coming full circle to number 8, which is spiritual connection and life's purpose. This is what I call the divine relationship. Everything in your life emanates from your relationship with you being in harmony with your relationship with God. And your relationship with God will never be all it can be until you strive to become all you can be. Write down those 10 attributes and then ask yourself, am I being that guy every single day? So in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, wherever, the 12-step movement, the 11th step says we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Pretty cool, right? But here again, this is the misunderstanding of what I'm talking about. There is a God that I want to connect with that is beyond my understanding, because my desire to go past my understanding is my personal growth. I created a program called Power 12, a masculine journey through the 12 steps. And our whole deal in Power 12 is understanding in that step 3 and that step 11 that you strive to understand God, but you let go of your ability to do so. Turning my will and my life over to the care of a God beyond my understanding means I'm letting go of my ability to understand God. Seeking through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I don't understand him to the God beyond my understanding means I strive to be better than I am, but I let go of my ability to understand the divine sequence of God. And you've heard me mention several times the whole concept of my will, right? I want my will for me to be in harmony with God's will for me. So how do I do that? Well, I've been through, there's a great teaching that I've been through several times called A Course in Miracles. Lesson 101 in A Course in Miracles says, God's will for me is perfect happiness. Think about that. That's lesson 101. And when I say my will for me is, I want that to be in harmony with God's will for me. Lesson 102, I share God's will for happiness for me. What we're talking about here is living your life in a level of peace. Definition of peace is a state of calm, and I will add in the midst of chaos. But also understand that peace in the Bible means a oneness with God, a oneness with the God that is beyond all understanding. The seventh key area that every modern man must master is recreation. And recreation means doing more things in life that make it fun. But if you look at the word recreation and you do creation, do you take time to sit still and recreate your oneness with God daily or weekly? Why or why not? A brief moment is all it takes. Again, peace, a state of calm. Peace, a oneness with God. So I'm going to end this session and say, peace be with you. And my prayer is that you can find that peace now. That is the end of the session, the God of my misunderstanding. So my prayer is that today's session leaves you inspired to be the best husband, father, and businessman you can be by becoming the man the world needs you to become. You know, the same guy God created you to become. I invite you to go to www.rescuetheman.com and check out all the empowering things we have going on. There's the book, the video book. There's also videos and links to our retreats and workshops like Camp David, the Warriors Challenge, the Empowered Man's Workshop. We have stuff for couples, fathers, plus so much more. Right now, you can get instant access to a man's quest for his true identity. This is a free video series that I've put together, and I've even thrown in a great gift to help you awaken the man God created you to become by discovering your core strengths. Again, check it out at www.rescuetheman.com. This is Mark Mascola saying, until next time, be empowered. Have a great day. You absolutely deserve it. Bye for now.